Welcome to Whiny Tutors. Today we'll see Unit 3 Boolean expressions and if statements that carry 15 to 17.5% of the total weightage. Let us see what are Boolean expressions. Boolean variables or expressions can have only two values that are true or false. While testing the equality, we have to remember primitive values like ints and references are primitive values like ints and reference values like strings can be compared using the operators equal to and not equal to. This stands for equal to and this stands for not equal to, and these return Boolean values. One equal to sign changes the value of a variable, whereas two equal to signs are used to test if a variable holds a certain value without changing its value. Similarly, the relational operators, that is greater than and less than symbol, are used to compare numerical values or arithmetic expressions. Though some programming languages allow using relational operators like greater than to compare strings, but Java uses only these operators for numbers and uses the string methods compare to and equals for comparing string values. The relational operator symbols less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, equals, does not equal are used for the programming. Similarly, while testing with mode, we can use the following. Test if a number is positive, number is greater than 0. Test if the number is negative, then less than 0. Test if the number is even by seeing if the remainder is 0 when divided by 2, then we write it so. Similarly, if you want to test a number is odd by seeing if there is a remainder when divided by 2, we will put a greater than symbol. Similarly, if we want to check if the multiple of x are divisible by x with no remainder, then this is the code used. Let us now check what are if statements and control flow. If statements, also called as conditionals or selection, are found in all programming languages as a way to mark choices. The statements in Java main method normally run or execute one at a time in order they are found from top to bottom. If statements change the flow control through the program so that some code is only run when something is true. In an if statement, if the condition is true, then the next statement or a block statement of statements will execute. If the condition is false, then the next statement or block of statements is skipped. A condition uses the keyword if followed by Boolean expressions inside of an open parenthesis and a closed parenthesis, and then followed by a single statement or block of statements. The single statement or block of statements are only executed if the condition is true. The open curly braces and a closed curly brace and open curly brace and a closed brace are used to group a block of statements together. It is recommended to always put the curly braces even if you have just one statement under the if statement. Note that there is no semicolon at the end of a Boolean expression in an if statement if it is the end of that line. Semicolon goes in the end of the whole if statement, often on the next line, or the braces are used to mark the beginning and end of the block of code under the if condition. Now, relational operators in if statements. We learned in the earlier sessions, most if statements have a Boolean condition which uses the relational operators like these. The most common errors with if statements are you have to always use curly braces to enclose the block of statements under the if condition. Java doesn't care if you intend the code, it goes by the curly braces. Now do not put a semicolon after the first line of the if statement. always use an equal to or not equal to in the condition of an if statement to test a variable. Now let us see what are two-way selections or if-else statements. What if we want to pick between two possibilities? We would either decide to flip a coin, and if it lands on head, we'll choose one, and if it lands on tails, then we'll choose the other option. For a single if or else statement, if Boolean expression, do the statement, else do the other statement. Similar to this, now we'll check what are nested ifs and dangling else. If statements can be nested inside other if statements. At times, with nested ifs, we find a dangling else that could potentially belong to either if statements. The rule is that the else clause will always be a part of the closest if statement in the same block of code, regardless of the indentation. Now let us see what happens when we have a multi-selection else if statements. Now what if we have three or more possibilities? Using if or else statements, we can even pick between three or more possibilities just by adding else if for each possibility after the first if and else before the last possibility. Now let us see what are compound Boolean expressions. When we have some cases where you want two things to be true before the body of the conditional is executed, we use double ands signature and as a logic. We use double ands as a logical and to join two Boolean expressions, and the body of the condition will only be executed only if both are true. Use of this symbol as a logical OR to join two Boolean expressions, and the body of the condition will be executed if one or both are true. And with numerical values, the OR operator is often used to check for error conditions on different ends for the number line, while the AND operator is often used to see if a number is in a range. Now, this symbol is known as NOT. The NOT operator can be used to negate a Boolean value. We have seen before that not equal in Java has precedence, is executed before the double AND or. Parentheses can be used to force the order of execution in a different way. If we mix the NOT with and or, then be careful because the results are often the opposite of what you think. It will be at first. Always remember, in Java, NOT function will be executed before the and will be executed before the or, unless there are parentheses. Anything inside the parenthesis is executed first. Now let us see what is truth tables. In the truth table shown, you can find two truth tables, and truth table and or truth table. Now the 0 stands for false and 1 stands for true. So let us see what is the output of AND truth table. That is A and B, and let's say the output is Y. Then when we give a false, then the resulted output is 0 or false. Similarly, false true gives false, true false gives false, and true is the only one that gives true in the case of an AND table. The results for a OR truth table, that is A or B, when A and B are both expressions that can be true or false. As we can see below, the result of A or B is true if either B or A is true. It is also true when both of them are true. That is, when we have given false, it becomes false, but when we give false or true, it considers only the true one and we get a value of true. Similarly, with true, false, you get a true, and true also is true. Both and or use a short circuit evaluation, which means the second condition isn't necessarily checked if the first condition is enough to tell the result is true or false. In a complex conditional with a logical and, both conditions must be true. So if the first is false, then the second doesn't have to be evaluated. If the complex conditional uses a logical OR and the first condition is true, then the second condition won't be executed, since only one of the condition needs to be true. With this session, we end the part 1 of unit 3 here. In the next part, that is part 2 of unit 3, we'll learn about equivalent Boolean expressions, De Morgan's laws, comparing object string equality, and using new with strings. Thank you.